Hey Village! So yesterday's video we mentioned that Miss A had a sore throat and she's not able to go to any of her visits until she gets a COVID test and is cleared with a negative test. So today we are headed out. We were able to find a place that gives them. She had a virtual doctor visit and they directed us to a close place. So we were able to get it covered and it should be pretty painless. I know she was a little worried because I know the first few rounds of testing you have to stick it pretty far, but the doctor assured her that it's not that far. And I've also heard it's kind of like, you know, somebody's picking your nose or you're picking your nose, because that would be weird if somebody else was picking your nose. Yeah. So it's like they go a little far. We're also gonna take a quick trip to Target and get some, you know, beauty essentials that we are overdue for. Today's a busy day, so I'm gonna show you what I'm up to. Before we get the test, I'm gonna go ahead and get some Starbucks. We decided to try to get out pretty early. It's a little later than we had wanted to, but the goal is that Miss A actually has a visit in a few days. And so if we get the test back within 48 hours, she would still be able to go to that in-person visit. So she would only be missing 2 of her visits, which is really the goal, to minimize the amount of time that she's away from her family, from the visits. And for those of you who shared in comments, there is the option for her to do virtual instead of the in-person during this time, but it's just not the same. Virtual is kind of meh. Alright, so we came all this way and I forgot the paperwork that basically shows that I am Miss A's foster mom. And good for them, they actually didn't allow her to go back and have any medical thing done until they see a form. So unfortunately for us, we have to drive all the way back home and then grab the paperwork, come all the way back out here. So that's what we're gonna do.
They let me come back with you.
But they did, yeah, they didn't hold her hostage until I proved that. I think it's just with medical stuff. As a foster parent, I mean, this is a rookie move on my part. I wasn't thinking. We were told that because the order was placed through the doctor, that we would just come through. He made it sound like it was a drive-through testing, but we actually had to go through the emergency room. Not the case. And even though the doctor gave the order and everything was good to go, they still needed to verify that I'm who I am. But now we're headed home to get the stuff. So if you need to get tested, make sure you go and find a place by you. At the place that we were just at, they just kind of gave her the, little swab, had her do it herself. It's not all the way up. It's just kind of like you're picking your nose, basically. And now we get to go to Target. Miss A wants some fries, and I think she has earned that. I think so, a large fry. As a foster parent, every 2 years in the state of Ohio, you have to get recertified. And this involves, kind of some paperwork, some providing documentation, as well as going through quite a bit of training just to maintain your license. And this is a really good check-in just to make sure that, foster parents are continuing to learn and develop, and also that nothing drastic has changed within the home. So a couple of months ago, our private agency caseworker gave us a packet of information and instructions to complete. John has actually been working on completing his training. Luckily, I went to kind of a 2-day workshop that counted towards my training hours. So mine kind of got all knocked out at once. And John is now trying to do some online training just to make sure that he gets his hours in. He has 8 days left to do that. And we have 8 days left to get all of these documents ready. So the first question that they ask you is if you want to still be considered a foster home and if you want to still have the option for adoption. And so what this means is, we have an agency that is foster care and adoption. And so we have the option of, going ahead and getting licensed to be an adoptive home at the same time as, going through the foster licensing process. And this makes it a little bit easier for us if we were to have a placement where parental rights were terminated and we were going to pursue adoption. It's probably a bit more work on the agency and the caseworkers. They probably have to do a lot behind the scenes, but for the foster parent, it's not a whole lot more to complete. So they ask you that right there. And then they also give you the option if you don't wish to continue to be a foster or an adoptive home. So you have that right on the first page. Next, there's a list of documents that they need. So I spent most of my day today going through this packet, signing all the documents that they put in here, and also gathering all of the copies of utilities. So that's gas, electric, water, cell phone bill, your pets. If you do have pets, that's fine. You just need to make sure they are up to date on their shots. And, for the state of Ohio, our county, you have to have a county registered license for your animal. All of that has to also be included with your recertification packet. Another important document in here is a frequent visitor verification form. So this is where you list out all of the people who you come in contact with on a fairly frequent basis. So for us, this is, the grandparents that come by, the, my sister and her family, they just want to kind of have an idea of who these people are, what their contact information is, and also what their relationship is to you. So this is just a really good thing to have because they want to know who the child is going to be in contact with. Now, the really fun part is when you get into the financial paperwork. So they have two different forms, one for the foster care side, one for the adoption side. And what these are basically you itemizing all forms of income that are coming in, as well as all of your fixed bills. And even some of these have other expenses, how much do you spend on groceries? How much do you spend on gas, entertainment, stuff like that. And this is key because what they're trying to show is that you are able to support your household without any kind of a per diem or stipend for the child. So this is where you get into that conversation of, are people being foster parents for the money? Yes, that could be happening out there. I'm not going to deny that, but this is a step that tries to eliminate people who truly don't have the capacity to cover their own expenses. You have to at least be able to do that. So we have to list everything, down to what our club memberships, so if we're part of the YMCA, we have to put that down. Our student loans, any credit cards, if you're paying child support, your property tax, your mortgage, just everything, what you're putting in savings. And, like I said, it's really, really important, but this honestly took probably the most time. This on top of trying to get all the copies of our, income, our pay stubs. John works for himself as a reseller. So, that's kind of an iffy situation. He doesn't actually have a paycheck, but he does have income coming in. So what I've done is I've compiled a list of questions and I've reached out to the agency to arrange for just a quick call where we can knock out those, questions as far as how do we show what John's income is, what's the proper way. We also did decide, since we are getting recertified and at this time, John and I both have YouTube channels that are bringing in income, we are putting that in our recertification packet so that we are disclosing that that is a form of income. And we're just going to leave it up to them if they want to, ask us questions about that. It might just kind of be, okay, you've disclosed it, that's fine. They might want to have a conversation about that. But at least we are, doing everything that we need to do. Again, we're following the rules that keep the child who is in our care, safe and maintaining their confidentiality. But we are prepared to have that conversation if they want to talk about the purpose of the channel. And then there was a whole lot of information that I didn't fully understand. So this is just going to have to wait. This is something that, you have to go online and register. And I didn't know if it was for us or for our alternative care providers. So I started this process and then I just stopped because I wasn't sure if I was even doing it right. On top of all of this paperwork, John and I both have to have individually 40 training hours completed in the last 2 years. And basically, if you're doing 1 3-hour class every other month, it pretty much works out to be that total training requirement, or it's somewhere around there. It's definitely important not to leave it off until the last minute, because prior to, you know, the COVID pandemic, there was a limit on how many of your training hours of those 40 training hours were online. So, you know, most of them had to be in person. And so if you put it off long enough, you know, you're going to be up against the clock and there might not be enough trainings to even attend, you know, so definitely something that you want to stay ahead of. Silver lining of the pandemic is that they are allowing all 100%. The 40 training hours for recertification can be completed online. So that's what John's doing every night. He's just kind of knocking out a little bit of training here and there. Once all of this paperwork is submitted, then we also have kind of like a second home study where our caseworker is going to come out to the house and they're just going to check all of those fire safety procedures. So they're going to make sure that we have a fire extinguisher, that all of our medicines are locked up. They're going to make sure all the beds, you know, are in the appropriate rooms, and, you know, all the ages and genders are split the way that they're supposed to be. So for our agency, every foster family, you know, is in a spreadsheet, and in there it's listed, here are the open beds. Here's like the breakdown of if we got a placement call and we wanted to consider this family, would they have space for that child? And so for us, it's really important that we're getting the extra room built out and that we're gonna have those extra beds, because during this recertification, we'll be able to show them that we do have space. Right now, obviously, we're only considering like being available for respite just because we're kind of at capacity just with like our time. And we've talked about it in the past that like if something were to happen, like, you know, the one exception to that outside of respite care is that we would consider taking in siblings of Miss A if anything were to happen. So that's not likely to happen. You know, reunification is still going to be the goal. Everything is moving towards that. It's just something that we're going to be ready for.
Mommy! I'm going to pre-K soon.
I know. Did you have a good day?
It was Boo's birthday.
Oh, that's cool.
They had browns and they Oreos and I picked a D.
That looks delicious. Hey, I have a surprise for you. Open them!
Oh, wow.
We have an amazing Indian restaurant locally, and we probably get it like at least once a month. It's probably one of our favorite meals, and Miss A is really excited to share this with her parents and her family because it's not something that they typically get. So we were actually able to introduce something to her, even though her family is usually the one with all the best food.
Look at the way he grows.
Triple cookie. Means three.